Hold on. Okay, I think we are live now. Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear us? Can you guys hear us? If you are online, we're just going to wait for everyone to join. We are actually live on YouTube and Facebook simultaneously. So there might be some connection issues. Hopefully not, but yay. We have VP Pato say yes, he can hear us. Eric, yes. How? Yeah. Risma. Okay, we have 20 people so far and just waiting for everyone. For this live stream event, we actually have almost 400 people registered, and we don't expect everyone to turn up. But I think the session will be beneficial, especially we will have giveaway at the end of live stream. We will be giving away 5 Pearson mock tests, each worth 55 AUD. So make sure you stay until the end. Someone said it is not live on Facebook yet. Let us check.
And
Wait.
if you can just put on the comment box which country you're from, so we'll have an idea of how wide our audience this afternoon is.
Yes, can you just comment where you guys from so that we know where you are? Should they comment the nationality or like the country of residence? Because I think it's like we have a lot of students living in Australia but from different countries. So
Both would be nice, so we'll get to know you better.
okay.
Yeah, so you have Eric, who's Indonesian but lives in Sydney. That's interesting.
Okay, so I think we're just going to wait for some more people to join. Because the live stream is happening at 7 p.m. Sydney time. Some people probably still just got back from work or finishing their dinner. And we are not actually in Australia. So Mr. Mark is in Philippines and I'm in Vietnam. So for our time zone, it's 4 and 5 p.m. So that's why let's just wait a little bit more before we get started. We will have a lot of valuable information to share. And as I said, make sure to stay until the end so that you can interact and ask questions for Mr. Mark. Okay, let's look at the comments section. A lot of people are asking questions already. Indian Jamie asking, is she Vietnamese? Yes, I am Vietnamese and living in Australia. Nepal, currently working as a PTE instructor. So Mr. Mark, you can see here that we don't just have students, but we also have teachers.
Yes, it's a diverse audience. So, some parts some parts of the presentation you may already know. So we'll just play it by ear for the benefit of those that don't know PTE academic that much.
Hmm. So just to introduce Mr. Mark quickly, so Mr. Mark Flores is currently a country manager for Pearson Language Test, PTE specifically, in Pearson, and he joined Pearson since 2016. He had extensive experience and valuable insights about the test, which is why we have invited him today, and he was very kind to accept our invitation to join this webinar today and to share insight and answer your questions. So thank you so much.
Yep, it's a pleasure to be here, Moni. Thank you for inviting me.
I think we can just get started because it's 4:09 already. We will start with a presentation from Mr. Mark. He will provide some information relating to the test and go into details in terms of the test patterns and maybe the scoring and all the other details that you should know. And then we will have a Q&A session where you can feel free to ask questions. Okay? Right.
Okay, let me just share my screen. All right. Can you confirm that you can see the title slide, which says PTE Academic English Tests Without the Stress? Um, can you see my slide, Moni?
Yes, I can see your slides. Can everyone else see the slides, guys? Yes?
All right. Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, let's get started then. All right. So um, you can see here English tests without the stress, and in the next couple of slides, we'll give a few reasons why we are calling PT Academic this. Right? So for those that are not very familiar with PTE, what is PTE? It's a computer-based language test that provides what we claim to be the most unbiased and most secure proof of a candidate's English skills, and you'll see why in the next few slides. So this test is used for university application in different countries. In some countries, you can use it for skilled migration um, and other applications. Okay. It's recognized around the world. In the U.S., we're recognized by 90% of the universities there for admission. There's more than 1,000 institutions, colleges, universities that recognize PTE in the U.S. The likes of Harvard Business School and Yale. We're also accepted for Fulbright scholarships. We are accepted in Canada for the SDS stream. I'm not sure. I don't believe all of the countries that are present today have this option, but for those that do, you can take PT Academic. For nursing applications to the US, we are accepted by CGFNS visa screen as well as different state nursing boards. In Australia and New Zealand, we are accepted for all visa categories, so all universities there. You can take PTE for skilled work as well as migration. Same with New Zealand. Well, with just a very few exceptions, like in Australia, I believe the only sector that has yet to accept PT academic is the teaching board. So if you need to apply for a teaching license in Australia, you will need to take another test. In New Zealand, the nursing board has yet to accept us. So if you intend to work in New Zealand as a nurse, you will need to take another test. But for all other purposes, it's all good. In the UK, we are accepted by 99% of the universities. We're accepted for all UK visas as well as Chevening scholarships. Although for some applications in the UK, you will need to take uh, a different, well, it's the same test with a different name called PTE Academic UKVI. It's the exact same test in reality, but when you apply for PTE Academic UKVI, you just go through a different booking process because there's certain information that the UK Immigration Board would need. So it's important when you're going through the booking process to identify which country you're going to and what is your purpose, and then the website will recommend the right test for you. Now you may be wondering, Pearson is a UK based company, so why are we accepted by only 99% of the universities? The reason for that is because the remaining 1% of the universities in the UK have stakes in our competitors, so naturally they would not want to accept PT Academic. In other parts of the world, so in Europe, there's a growing number of countries and universities that are accepting PTE. Countries like Sweden, Finland, Ireland, Norway, and other countries. Okay? As well as in Asia, there's also a growing number of institutions within Asia that are requiring English tests, and PTE is one of those accepted tests. For institutions in Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, and Vietnam. Talking about US bound nursing, so you can see here the score requirement is an overall score of 55 with no score below 50. Although there are some US nursing boards, state nursing boards, that would require a higher score, typically 63 in speaking. You can see here the concordance between the PTE scoring band and the IELTS scoring band. So just roughly, if you're aiming for an overall score of 55 in PTE, that's the equivalent of a 6.0 in the IELTS band. I mentioned state nursing boards, so you can see here. I'm not sure how many of you are nurses that are interested in this, but just so you know, there are, 2/3 of the states in the U.S. accept PTE for nursing licenses. What makes PTE unique? There are four main aspects of the test. One is the convenience. It's a single 2-hour test. No other test can assess your four skills, your speaking, writing, reading, and listening skills within this short span of time. In most cases, you'll have to come back on another date for your speaking test. Okay. It's fast. 95% of our test takers around the world receive their scores within 48 hours after completing the test. In some cases, they can get it on the same day. If you take your test in the morning, there's a chance that by evening you'll have your scores already. We test, well, not exactly 365 days a year, but what this is saying is that there is no fixed testing calendar for PTE. Depending on which country you are in and which test center you are looking to book for, there are testing dates basically flexible. And in some cases, we do increase capacity when needed. When the demand is too high, we can increase capacity within test centers. So theoretically, you can test any day of the year. The booking process is very simple. It's you go online, you register your account, and then you book. If need be, you can book up to 20, as little as 24 hours in advance of the test. Although we do not recommend that. Ideally, at least in the Philippines, the best practice that we have seen is to book your test roughly maybe 4 to 6 weeks ahead. So you secure your slot, and then you use the time in between that to enroll in a review center like PTE Magic, and prepare yourself for the test. Okay? Second aspect is the accuracy of the scoring. Again, I mentioned earlier that it is a computer-based test. It's not only computer delivered, but it more importantly, PTE Academic is computer scored. So your answers are being assessed by artificial intelligence, okay, which makes it highly, 100% impartial. Okay, there are no biases involved here, no human prejudices that may come into play, no human error. Okay, so it is the most accurate test of English skills with the smallest margin of error. I will talk a little bit more about AI scoring in the next few slides. So if you have questions on, how does AI score my speaking skill, or how does AI assess my essay answers, um, you might find answers to that in the next few slides. Okay? Next is the relevance of the questions that you will encounter in the test. Okay? There are no manufactured questions in PTE Academic. All of the questions that you will encounter in PTE Academic are taken from authentic day-to-day sources. We're talking of things like recorded lectures from university professors around the world, clippings from news articles in credible sources like BBC, okay? Interviews from people on the street, and all that. The implication of that is that with PTE Academic, you are being tested for the exact same situations that you will encounter when you go to your country of destination. So it doesn't get more real than that. So you're being assessed on how you use the language in everyday situations. And another thing is within PT Academic, there are some questions that are called integrated skill questions, which means you are being scored, okay, on more than one skill. So, for example, you may be answering a question in the speaking section of the test, and yet your answer is being scored both for speaking and, let's say, listening. So the implication is if you are prepared for the test, that means you have more opportunities to gain points, to earn points. Lastly is the security. Okay? Um, of course, for test takers, tighter security is not always, a welcome, a welcome sight. But just bear in mind that the level of security in PT Academic is one of the reasons why the test is recognized or accepted for so many applications, because institutions like immigration boards, universities, nursing boards, and all that, they know that the test is authentic, and the scores that they are seeing are the scores of the test candidate themselves, and not somebody else posing as the test candidate. Test center locations, we are present in more than 100 countries around the world. The list you see here is only covering basically Southeast or Asia Pacific region. But you can see there, we have test centers in so many different countries, China, even countries like Cambodia, Fiji. Would you believe there's a test center there? In Laos, Myanmar, okay, Papua New Guinea, and so on. So the best way to find out if what's the nearest test center to your location is to go to the website pearsonpte.com and then check. Okay, where is the nearest test center to where you are. A little bit about the test taker journey. So it's a short 5-step process. You go online, you book your test, much in the same way that you would book a flight to to a holiday destination. Okay? And then you take the time to prepare for the test. As I mentioned earlier, the recommended practice that we have observed, at least in the Philippines, is you book your test 4 to 6 weeks ahead, and then take a review course with an institution like PTE Magic. And then when you're ready, 4 to 6 weeks later, you take the test, single 2-hour session. You wait usually 2 days in most cases a maximum of 5 working days. You get your score, and then you just share that score with institutions that you're applying for. With PTE Academic, you can share your score with as many institutions as you want, all free of charge. I'll show you a little bit on how you do that in the next few slides. Right? So, booking a test, you go to pearsonpte.com and register for your create an account, and then when you're ready to book your test, it's easy enough to navigate the website. Click on book your test, and then go through the booking process. There's several questions that you will need to answer, again for security purposes. And then once you've gone through that, you just simply select the testing slot that works best for you. Okay? In many cases, a test center would run more than one session in one day. As you can see here, one of the Philippine testing centers has actually 3 sessions available on all on the same day. So there's a lot of flexibility in terms of booking your test schedule. As I mentioned, it's taken at a secure test center. When you arrive at the test center, our recommendation is arrive at least 30 minutes before the start of your test. So you will have time to go through the security process. There will be documents that you will be asked to read and sign. You can see the picture here. That's a typical test center, testing room. Okay? So you have individual cubicles. Every test taker has his own CCTV camera, so you have your test administrator there that's observing everything, making sure that that everyone is taking the test properly. At any point that you encounter a problem, you simply raise your hand, and then the test administrator will approach you. They have the authority to put your test on pause and try to fix whatever issue you're encountering. A little bit about the test structure. I mentioned earlier that some test questions are integrated skill questions. So you can see here that the item types that are in blue are actually integrated skill questions. So if they test more than one skill, which gives you more opportunities to earn points. So you can see there, it's broken down into 3 main parts. Part 1 integrates speaking and writing, approximately 1 hour long, and then part 2 is about half an hour long for reading, and then you have another 30 to 40, 40 something minutes for listening. Okay? The numbers in parentheses that you see here indicate how many times you will encounter that kind of a question type. So it varies. The test is randomized, so no 2 people are taking the exact same test at the same time. You'll be encountering different questions. So the testing time of 2 hours is approximate depending on how fast you're able to answer each question, and the way the randomized item types are presented to you. Okay, so it's I mentioned earlier, authentic content. You only get 1 attempt at each question, so you don't get to repeat the question. You can only move back. You cannot go back to. You can only move forward. You're not allowed to move back to the previous question. Every question type is under time pressure, and you will be provided with an erasable notepad and pen. For item types where it's recommended actually for you to take down notes. Okay? I mentioned this because it stresses the importance of preparing well for the test. In many cases, half of the reason why people don't do very well in a test like this is because they're not familiar with the question types. So, they take a lot of time trying to understand the question and trying to figure out how to answer it. But if you do your due diligence, and you prepare, you take your review courses seriously, by the time you take your test, you will be familiar with all the question types, and you'll know exactly how to answer them. All right. So I mentioned AI and automated scoring. So let's talk a little bit about that. I'm not about to explain, to the level of an IT expert, but just to give you an idea of how it all works, right? So, in a survey that was conducted in 2019 among people that took the PTE academic test, um, we found that three out of the top five reasons why they chose PTE academic are all related to AI technology. Number one reason was because it's fast. Okay. Number two was because of unbiased results. Okay. You have three and four there that may be related to AI technology, but if you look at number five, fully automated scoring. So people actually mentioned that the reason why they chose PTE is because they feel more confident in automated scoring. So how does it all work, right? So let's look at two two different scenarios. Okay? In a manual, in a human rated uh, test, okay, you have, for example, this student that gives an answer to a question, and then your examiner, the human examiner, would assess that and decide, well, that's an average answer, which deserves an average score. The exact same answer to the exact same question given by the exact same student, but to a different examiner, may have a different result. Examiner number two might think, oh wow, that's a fantastic answer, so that deserves a fantastic score. So you can see here how human rating can be inconsistent. There have been cases where um, people go to specific test centers to get a better score because they know that the examiners there are, more lenient, for example. Okay? Now, the way the artificial intelligence behind PTE works is, or the way it was developed was, we fielded, or our test developers fielded, thousands and thousands of questions to thousands and thousands of expert human examiners. Okay? And then their the assessment of those human examiners were all gathered, and basically, the system took what is common in the way all of these, several thousand human examiners rated this one answer. So basically, in a manner of speaking, AI scoring is almost like you are being rated by, let's say, 10,000 different human examiners all at the same time. And then your performance, your score, will be the common, the median among how they all scored it. The result there is you have your machine, your AI, that's scoring your answers. And according to AI, that answer is equivalent to a five, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10. Anywhere in the world, you take the test, it's the same system, therefore you will get the same results. Okay? So I hope this gives you a general idea of how AI technology works in scoring your performance. Now, what do you do once you've taken your test and you've received your score? You will receive a score report like this. Okay? And then within that score report, there is what we call a skill profile, okay? Individual skills profile. You can see here that the four main skills, listening, reading, speaking, and writing, are further broken down into eight language categories. And then if you click on any one of them, it will drill down even further, explain, okay, what is this skill all about, and what are the things you can do to improve that particular skill. So in a way, this score report is a good tool for test takers to further develop their skills in case, let's say, 2 years from now, you will need to take the test again and you will need a higher score. Now, how do you share that? I mentioned earlier you can share with as many institutions as you want. All you need to do is take note of the score report code, which you will find up there on the upper left, just below the PT academic logo. Okay? So take note of that, and then you share that with the institutions that you're applying to. What will happen is those institutions will now be able to go into the score report website, and using your score report code, they will be able to see your score. Okay? They will not be able to see the skills profile that I showed you earlier, but they will see this. So they will see your score in each of the four main skills, as well as your overall score. Again, this is one of the sources of confidence of these institutions, because they know that the score report that they're looking at is authentic, you know, much like blockchain technology works. All right. So I will stop there because of the diversity of the audience that we have this afternoon. Um, I'll stop there, and then if you have any questions, we can spend the rest of the time answering them, or you can also go to to these to our website and the social media sites to find out more about what's happening with PT Academic. All right, so I'll turn over back to you, Moni, and then let we can go into a question and answer maybe.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Mark. It was very useful, and this was actually my first time seeing the explanation about AI scoring, the accuracy of AI scoring compared to human marking. Okay, so let's just go through some questions. Upon registration, we have collected some of the questions from students. So we will start with them first. And then we also have some questions here on YouTube and on Facebook. So we will pick some questions. Unfortunately, due to the time limitation, we will not be able to answer all of the questions. But yeah, we'll try our best to give you the answers. Um, we have a question that a lot of students were asking related to the overall score.
Mm,
I'm just
mm,
going to put the question here. So many students ask how is the overall score calculated in PTE?
mm,
So normally in IELTS, like other English exams,
mm,
they take the average out of four skills. And in some of the score report in PTE, I see that we can take the average out of four skills. But for some score report, let me just share one as an example, so that you guys can understand what I'm referring to. Let me just show one, if I can show one. But so for instance, a student got like over 80, yeah, over 80 for all four skills. But for in the overall score, she
mm,
got less than 80, even
mm.
though for speaking, writing, listening, and like reading, she got over 80.
Yeah.
So the question is, how is it calculated exactly?
All right. Yeah, you're right. Most of the time, you would see that the overall score appears to be the average of the four individual skills, right? Which leads you to think that that's the way you compute the overall score. But in reality, again, a little bit about how the AI works, right? So basically, especially in integrated skill questions, at any given time, the system has four different buckets. So there's a bucket for speaking, there's a bucket for listening, one for reading, and one for writing. And then at any given point, the system is putting points into each, the appropriate buckets. Okay? Um, and then at the end of the day, you know, it's hard to explain, but basically, you know, all those points put together, would contribute to your overall score. Now, I have not. This is the first time I actually encountered a case where the overall score is lower than any of the four individual skills. So unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to explain how that. I think the thing to
So,
keep to bear in mind is that you're being given points for every skill at any given point during any given point during the test. So in the end, it's not necessarily just averaging the four skills to get
hmm,
your score.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like as an example of this student who like got her desired score for nursery registration, she got 76, 66, 84, and 62. So if we put all of the scores together, right, and then divided by 4, we will get 72, which is supposed to be higher, but she got 68. So
Right.
according to your explanation, as I understand, is that it is not always based on four skills, but
Mm.
it is calculated based on all of the tasks that you completed, including read aloud, repeat sentence, retell lecture, all of the
Right.
small tasks, and then they will use the average scores, probably, yeah, like most likely,
Yeah.
of all of the tasks. Yes, thank you for explaining that. Another questions that come up quite often is relating to speaking. Is that does the accent play a major role in PTE speaking assessment? So, for instance, if you have not just British or like US accent, but if you have like Indian accent or like Vietnamese accent or like Chinese accent, does it really affect your scores? Because accent is not something that we can easily fix.
Right. Right. The quick answer is most definitely not. Right. Accent does not play a role in your speaking performance. What matters more is well, on the surface, pronunciation. So if you pronounce the words properly, but there is also this aspect called intelligibility. Okay? So intelligibility is defined as the extent to which, let's say, a native English speaker will be able to understand what you're saying. So you may have a very stiff accent, let's say, a stiff Vietnamese accent, but as long as in the assessment of the artificial intelligence, a native English speaker will be able to understand you, with minimal effort, then you're doing well. So,
Mm,
in the Philippines, this is one of the things that I always stress to students when I address students, because in the Philippines we have a relatively neutral accent, right? So we can get close to different accents. But I try to tell students, don't worry about the accent. Don't try to sound like an American or an Englishman. Just sound the way you do. Right? What matters is that you are able to speak clearly. You are pronouncing the words properly, and you're easy enough for a native speaker to understand.
yeah, agreed. Um, yeah, and I think I encountered this a lot too. And I think even Pearson system uses a lot of data from different nationalities already. So it can easily recognize pronunciation despite your accent.
Right.
Okay, the next question might be not challenging, but like maybe tricky. It's relating to repeat sentence and write from dictation. So some students, a lot of students actually encounter difficulties while doing repeat sentence and write from dictation in PTE exam. This task is also very different from other English proficiency tests, where it requires you to repeat a sentence or like to rewrite a sentence exactly as you hear it, and you can only hear it once. So is this a memory test?
Um, Not exactly. Of course, there's some memory involved, but more importantly, questions of this type will will test your knowledge of grammar. If you have a very good command of grammar, you will. The tendency is when you, let's say in repeat sentence, when you hear the sentence and you have a very, a very strong command of grammar, sentence construction and all that, what happens is you're actually just picking keywords out of, let's say, a 10-word sentence. You're just picking keywords. You're not really memorizing exactly what you heard, but because you already know, things like subject verb agreement, if this is the subject, do you say is or are, and things like that. So you're basically just picking keywords, which makes it easier to repeat the sentence. But yes, to a certain extent, there is some memory involved. But I wouldn't worry about it. I would worry more about, master your, the elements of language. So grammar, sentence construction, subject verb agreement, etc.
Agreed. Yeah, because like you have to pick up probably the meaning. I explain this a lot to, sorry, like got lose the light here. So I explain a lot to students and give example, like as an example, a sentence in Russian when I say, "Я заболела, поэтому я не могу пойти в школу." And then I ask them, can you repeat the sentence to non-Russian? Of course, they will not be able to repeat it, maybe just like one or two words. But then when I translate the same sentence to English, I'm sick, so I can't go to school tomorrow. So when you understand the sentence, you are able to reproduce, repeat the sentence easily. So comprehension is still the key in repeating those sentences. And even the creator of PTE test, they yeah emphasize on the fact that you need to understand, listen, and comprehend in order to repeat. But yeah, so it's not just a memory test. Maybe we just pick up some of the questions from the comments, and then
Sure.
we'll continue with the other sentence, the other questions. Uh, One student say Muhammad on Facebook commented, "Excellent presentation. Thank you, thank you. Kudos to Mr. Mark." Um, okay, I'm just trying to. Okay, so this is a question relating to Pearson mock test. So as everyone know, when you guys book PTE, there's an option where you can also purchase score test. There are 5 of them from Pearson, official Pearson test. And the question here is from Bhavesh Patel. Sorry if I don't say your name correctly. In official Pearson PTE score mock test, why they are not showing score profile? It should be necessary for students for self-evaluation. If it's given in the real exam, why not in the official mock exam? So normally when you do the actual test, beside the communicative skills, like 4 skills, you can also see the skills profile under your school report. But in the official Pearson mock test, you don't get that.
Yeah.
And that's why Mr. Patel is questioning that.
Yes.
So is there any reason?
Well, that's a good point. I will have to get back to you on the reason why that is so, but just from, I'll take a swing at it. Um, the purpose of the mock test is not so much for diagnostic purposes, but more for you to determine if you are actually ready for, for the actual test. So it's more like a dry run than a diagnostic exercise. So um, usually the recommendation is you take the scored practice test towards the end of your review course, so you'll know if you're gunning for, let's say, you're aiming for a 60 overall, and if you score 58 or 59 in the mock test, then you're more or less ready. Just a little more practice, more familiarity. But if you score 57, 56, then maybe some work needs to be done. The most I can recommend is in a case like that, look at your individual skill scores and find out, which one is pulling your score down, okay, which one is your weakest, and then work on
Mm,
that.
mm,
I will take your question to the test developers.
yes.
Maybe there's a way they can, include the skill profile in your mock test score.
Yes. Yes. See, Bhavesh, you might be the person who changed this game, like who introduced something new to the official Pearson mock test. Thank you for answering that. I have another question from Miss How New. She's Vietnamese, and she's asking about how to focus, like on speaking when people around are speaking so loudly. This is something that causing a lot of challenges. I don't know if you have been to the PTE exam room, test room, when everyone doing speaking simultaneously. Are there
Right.
any tips? Are there any tips to like?
Um, well, ideally, because you have noise canceling headphones, you're not supposed to, to hear that, at least not to the point that you're bothered. But if you are, just raise your hand and then, call the attention of the test administrator. They will come to you and you can tell them, I think the person next to me is speaking too loud. So they can, in turn advise that person. But
Hmm,
this concern actually came up many many years ago, and the way we addressed it was we upgraded the equipment
hmm,
to, like I said, noise canceling headphones. So they have
hmm,
thick foam around them. And if you're worried, because some test takers are worried that the voice of the other person might be picked up in their microphone. That's not really so because your microphone is closer to your mouth than theirs. So no matter how loud they are speaking, if you speak at a decent volume, your microphone will pick up your voice other than theirs. But if you are being bothered by the voice of the other people around you, you can just raise your hand and ask the help of your test administrator.
hmm. So, if the exam room was extremely noisy, like that, it's not supposed to be on that level, can
Yeah.
we, notify the invigilator? Because I think it might affect our scores. So,
Mm.
should we get like a case number or like something like that, so that if we do fail in speaking, at least we can, explain or like ask for rescoring.
Yes, you can. You can basically file. I don't really want to call it a complaint, but something like that.
Yeah.
But like I said, I would I would rather not get to that point.
Hmm.
So during the test itself, if you feel that you're being distracted, you can ask the help of the administrator right there and then, so they can address it. Because raising a ticket, that it's a big hassle. So you don't really want to get there.
Great, agreed. So my recommendation here would be for you to practice, like, because normally when people practice at home, they just practice in a quiet room, right?
Mm.
Or like quiet environment. So knowing that the test room would be noisy, you should expect that. So when practicing at home, try to put some noises, not music, but you can find on YouTube some like noise, people speaking or something like that, so that you can get used to it. So once you get used to it, you're not going to feel scared anymore entering the actual exam room. Okay, another question from Alexei Anas- Anastasia, like sounds like Russian. Is it okay that during the listening section, in some of the question, the accent of the speaker jumps from Australian to UK or like American, and vice versa? It is not very common in real life.
Um, yeah, thank you for that question, Alexi. Actually, I would think it's the other way around. If you go to places like Melbourne, Sydney, or pretty much any major destination in the world, you just walking down the street, walk 500 meters. you're likely to encounter an Indian, an Asian, a Caucasian, So
Mm,
that's how it is in today's world, where you're likely to encounter different accents within a span of 10 minutes.
mm,
Um, that's part of one of the reasons why the test questions in PT academic are the way they are. One question you may hear a speaker that has that sounds Singaporean, and then the
mm,
next question you have Australian, and so
yeah.
on,
Mm,
because it tries to emulate, to simulate um,
mm.
the situations you will encounter in real life.
Yes, agreed. Because so the purpose of you taking this test is probably for you to go to Australia or to UK or to Canada, right? And then when you go to those countries, most likely you will be communicating with people from various countries. So you should be able to understand different accents. Even if you take the test for university applications, when you go to the lecture, your teacher, your lecturer might come from different countries too.
Right.
So I think it's still realistic, quite realistic.
Yeah. And
Um,
if I may add to that, imagine, let's say you applied for a university in Canada. Um, at the university level, let's say you're assigned group work. Chances are, a group of five people will be composed of five different nationalities.
hmm,
So in that group interaction alone, you're encountering different accents all in one discussion.
hmm, okay, thank you. And then Alexei just say thank you very much for the answer. The next question is also is from Rusufavit. Sorry, I don't know how to say your name. Are you from Thailand or like from like are you Burmese? Where are you from? Sorry if I don't say your names correctly, guys. The question is, does UK or US spelling matter in PTE writing category? You're not the only one who is wondering about this. We This is actually one of the most asked questions. So, Mr. Mark.
Yep. It does and it doesn't. So the answer is yes and no. Yes, because it's important for you to be consistent. So let's say, if you begin the test using U.S. spelling, U.S. terminology, um, it's best for you to stay that way. For the rest of the ideally for the rest of the exam, just be consistent. Right? And if you start out with UK English, then stay with UK English.
Mm,
So in that sense, it matters, because if you keep switching, especially if you, let's say, within the same question, let's say in the essay question, within one paragraph you have one sentence that uses American English, and then the next sentence uses UK English, then that's gonna score badly for you.
mm, mm, mm,
In that sense, it matters. But on the other hand, it doesn't matter, because if you are more comfortable with one form of English, there's no problem. Stay with that. Like, in Southeast Asia, in the Philippines, we are more U.S. English than UK English, but most other parts of Southeast Asia is the other way around. So, the important thing is just you stay consistent.
mm. So yeah, to summarize it, you have to stay consistent. If you, for example, if you do summarize spoken text, and you get two questions, or like summarize written text, and you get two questions. The first question you use British spelling, you then have to use British spelling for that question. And for the second question, if you use US spelling, you have to use US spelling for the whole question too. So whichever spelling you use for a certain question, you have to stick with that spelling. Hope that explains. Um, okay, so let's move on to another. This is a quite interesting question relating to
Mm,
the AI scoring. Like Google document recognizes my voice, it like perfectly, but PTE does not. So I think like for like Pearson uses their own AI scoring for speaking. right?
Yeah. Yeah. The simplest explanation is it's a different system. So, the standards are different.
Mm, yes, and Pearson exam has been there for ages, so they and they also invested a lot into the AI scoring for speaking, and they heavily focus on speaking. So I believe that it's just very different. So it's hard for us to just compare that way. Um, okay, another question that not from the comment section would be also relating to the Pearson official mock test. Let me show you. So the question is, along with the test booking, Pearson also offers score practice tests. Do those tests use the same marking systems as the actual exam?
Yes, 100%. It uses the same scoring engine. The only difference, one is obviously, the level of security in the mock test is very different because you can take it anywhere. But it uses the same engine. The other difference is that the specific questions you are encountering in the mock test are no longer being circulated in the actual test. In other words, they're no longer live. Once upon a
Mm,
time, they were,
mm,
uh, but after a certain period, we do take questions out of circulation because test takers that the likelihood of test takers being familiar with that exact question increases over time. So you are actually taking a real PTE test, except that you're encountering questions that are no longer live, and there's less security.
mm. Okay, so to answer this question, basically, yes, the scoring system is the same for Pearson mock test. So if you want to evaluate yourself before going to the real test, you can take Pearson's mock test. However, the questions in those tests will not appear in your actual test. They will be different. Okay, so this is another question that is on our list, but I can see it in the comment. So we're just going to read out this question here. So there are many rumors about using reading just one line in read aloud and still scoring some points. So what do you think about this?
When you say one line, meaning you don't read the whole text. Is that
Yes. Yes.
yeah, that is definitely, most definitely a myth. Because read aloud is actually scored based on how many words you're able to speak,
Mm,
accurately. So
yeah.
if the text has 20 words and you read only 10, that means you're missing 10 points.
Mm, okay. So we also receive this question quite often, and we also don't recommend using it. It's quite risky, particularly just because in the instruction you are required to read the whole passage, and
Yep.
you're just reading one. Um, so yeah, let's just move to the next question. Um, this one here from Goku. Are
Mm.
there any major changes in the PTE exam pattern in 2024? Wow,
Uh,
still a few more months to go.
yeah. None that I know of. If at all, at some point, probably within 2024, there may be new questions being fielded. But in terms of the test structure itself, we're not aware that there's any there's going to be any changes.
Yeah. So yeah. So far, yeah. But will you announce about the changes
Oh yeah,
if
definitely. If there are any major changes in the test, we will announce it. Like, um, once upon a time, PTE academic was a 3-hour test, and then after a lot of research, it was decided, it was discovered that um, the language had gotten to a point where you can actually you can test with relatively the same accuracy with in a shorter span of time. Okay, same
Hmm.
same number of item types, It's just that the
mm,
frequency of some specific questions went down. Let's say from, you used to encounter 12, this particular question 12 times. Now you do it just 10 times. So things like that. So yes,
mm.
if there are any major changes, we will announce them definitely.
Thank you. um, the next question is related to reading.
Mhm.
In other English proficiency exams, speaking and writing tend to be the most difficult. But in PTE, most of the students struggle with reading. Is there a reason to why reason is so challenging, and any tips for that?
Um, I, I'm not sure. I think that boils down to the test taker individually. And if you are struggling with the reading section, then that simply means that that's your weakest skill, which you need to work on. And like Moni mentioned earlier, comprehension is actually the key in reading, in the reading section. Um, Part of it, because of the time pressure, you need to learn um, skills like skimming and scanning, a portion of text.
Hmm,
uh, but it all boils down to comprehension.
hmm,
How well and how quickly are you able to comprehend what the text is saying?
hmm. Yeah, so with reading, normally the tips that students would get would probably be like practice is the key, but obviously, it's also related to your grammar. You have to have good grammar. You have to know the tenses, the collocations, and you should know the vocabulary of different topics. So I read another day that for normal, like average native speakers, will have around 20,000 words of vocabulary. So for a new English speakers would be around 4 or 5,000, and for like advanced speakers, it would be around 8,000 to 10,000. So in order for you to learn new words, you have to read more, different topics like environment or like history, astronomy, and then you have to have your own dictionary. I think that's how I prepare for the test. Like I write down the words, the new words, because if you don't have vocabulary, you will not be able to complete those questions, like in fill in the blanks or read a paragraph. And there are no tricks around that. Yeah, you have to actually know those vocabulary, and also time management. And for some students, when they do it at home, I think they are able to get the right questions. But then in the real exam, they get so nervous under the exam pressure. So we highly recommend you to practice under a very short time. Practice with the score mock test from Pearson too, so that you can familiarize yourself with the time pressure.
Mhm.
Okay, trying just to see other questions here. We have one question from uh, Okio Sisi. Oh, that's a very cute name. What about this requesting for a rescore? I will add to this is that does Pearson change your scores ever if you ask for rescoring, or is it just a free exam?
um, I'm not aware of any incident anywhere in the world where the score was changed. But having said that, I'm not really saying it's pointless to ask for a rescore. If you really feel that your score, you were not scored properly, then yeah, by all means you can request for a reevaluation of your score.
Hmm,
What happens there is, it's actually the other way around. Um, in the first time you took the test, it was all artificial intelligence that scored you. And
hmm,
if you're not satisfied with that, and then you ask for a reevaluation, that's when a human expert comes along and reviews your answers, and makes a makes a judgment call on whether or not uh, something went wrong with the system at that particular time. So yes, you can ask for a rescore, but just bear in mind that there is no guarantee that you will get a rescore.
Mm.
um, there's there's a strong chance that in the end your score will not change.
Mm. Yeah. So if there are just only in case if there are any technical issues, then you will be given a free exam. But that's a very rare case, and it will take time for them to investigate. So in one of the questions here, I forgot where the question is, but a Vietnamese student asked if we can re-listen to our recording if we do ask for like rescoring. I think this is question from Nguyễn Lê Thanh, but I'm just trying to interpret what he's trying to ask you. Like if when we request for rescoring, are we allowed to listen to our recordings again, or is it just internal thing, and
Yeah,
we will just be given the result of the
yeah,
review afterwards?
yeah. I don't believe you will be allowed to listen to your test answers. But just reading the question here, there is a portion in the beginning before you begin your test. There's a portion where you're asked to test your equipment. There are indicators there that tell you if your mic volume is too soft or too loud, and there's also a way for you to test the volume of your headphones. So,
Mm.
that's where you'll be able to test if your equipment is working properly. You will not be able to hear your own voice, but much like when you're preparing for a Zoom, let's say a Zoom call where you can test your mic volume.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, so we do recommend to listen from the very beginning, to check it very carefully, because a lot of students when they check the headset and then they think, or like they can tell that there is an issue or problem, but they
Mm,
don't say anything. They just move on,
right.
because like they just think, okay, it's okay, I don't want to bother them, like, and don't even complain, and then they just go on, and then at the end, the speaking score is not as they expected. So yeah, we do recommend you to raise hand. Another question here, also relating to the headset. This student is from Nepal,
Mm,
Prakash. I think he's asking this question because you are a representative from Pearson, and
mm,
you also have, you can voice your opinion or like concern. So, what
mm,
factors contribute to the widespread issues with the headphones and equipment functionality in Nepal, affecting numerous individuals?
mm.
Yeah, can Moni and Mr. Mark shed light on this concern? I really like how he phrased the questions, shed light on this concern, like good English writing there.
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah. But unfortunately, Prakash, I don't have any insight on that. But again, I've taken note of that, and I can reach out to my colleague in Nepal. Maybe he can find
Yes.
out more about that.
Yes, thank you so much. That will help a lot, because we just don't have the power to make a difference. But I think that the headset quality is important, since this is not there's no human interaction, and you're just talking to a computer. So thank you so much, Mr. Mark. I have another question here. Sorry if you you are so overwhelmed with
Nope,
questions. Uh,
all good. All good.
this one here is relating to writing. Can you share more about how system generally scores writing in PTE, as this is the only English writing exam which is not marked by a human?
Mhm. Okay. I'll try to answer that as best as I can. You're all familiar with generative I suppose. The last few months, this has been a big thing where you can write an entire academic paper. Actually, no, not you, but the AI can write an entire academic paper. Just taking uh, cues from you. What topics do you want to discuss and all that, and how scholarly do you want it to look. In the same way, that's how the AI within PTE Academic looks at your writing skills. So
Mm,
it on the foundation level, it looks at obviously sentence construction, discourse. Okay, so how do you develop your ideas from one sentence to the next? How do you build on that? And then of course there are things like spelling. How wide is the vocabulary that you're using uh,
mm,
within the text that you wrote, uh,
mm,
and how well are you able to deliver your discourse? How well are you able to defend your opinion on the topic and all that? So um, basically, that's how it looks at your essay.
mm. So, so that doesn't mean that Pearson system has like a dictionary in the system, because what if we have, we use a lot of synonyms,
Mm.
like
Yep.
so.
That's actually better, because it shows that your vocabulary is a lot richer, right?
Hmm,
Rather than using the same word over and over.
hmm, okay. Um, okay, let's move on to the next question. So many questions here.
Yeah,
This
very
is
interesting.
quite bizarre, but from Ngọc Vũ, a student, Vietnamese student, if we take the test the second time, will AI remember our previous grammar mistakes?
Fortunately, not right. The system does learn, with every test taker.
Hmm,
It's constantly learning. But if you're worried that the system knows who you are and
hmm,
says, "Oh, okay, this test taker made these mistakes before," you don't need to worry about that. Basically, when you retake the test, um, you know, it will look at you as although it knows you're taking it the second time. The system will look at your second test all by itself individually, so you
hmm,
don't need to worry about previous mistakes.
hmm,
um, just do your best.
hmm. Yeah, I never encountered this before, and I don't think this is a problem at all. Um, Even though we already spoke about the accent, but I believe these students, like on YouTube, the viewer on YouTube, they join a bit late, and so we have three people asking the same question,
Mm.
which I will show here, and then we will answer it again.
Yep.
Um, yeah. Indian
Yep.
accent, is Indian accent accepted in PTE, or should we try to speak in another accent?
Yep. So yeah, accent is most definitely not a factor in PTE. What matters is pronunciation, clarity of your speech, and an aspect that we call intelligibility, which basically means how well will a native English speaker understand what you're saying, regardless of your accent.
Mm,
So, yeah, that's one of the biggest mistakes that you can make in PTE is trying to sound like somebody else.
mm,
Um, that is not a guarantee, and in most cases, it does more harm than good. So, just focus on being able to pronounce the words properly and being able to speak clearly.
mm,
At the proper pace. Not too fast, not too slow, but don't worry about accent.
mm. Okay, yeah, again, we already answered this question before, and um, so yeah, don't worry about your accent. Um, I'm just looking through the questions, and just to see if we can cover anything else. But um, Mr. Mark, do you want to share anything else from your slides, or can I move to a mini quiz we just want to ask you a few questions. We have a giveaway.
Sure, sure.
Okay, let's do this. So we will be giving away 5 Pearson mock tests to 5 students. Each of the participant can only get one. So if you answer like very quickly twice on 2 different questions, you will not get 2 mock tests. You will only get one. And the questions will be relating to PTE, of course. So let's start with the first one. So whoever answer fastest and correctly will get one Pearson mock test. Okay. And of course, thank you to Mr. Mark for sponsoring those mock tests. Okay,
Pleasure.
let's go. So the first question is, can you name 3 important criteria in scoring speaking? Let's go. Can you guys name, just comment, can you name 3 important criteria in scoring speaking? Okay, we we have a winner here on Facebook, not on YouTube. Oh my gosh, we have so many correct answers here, but
Yeah,
unfortunately, we can only pick one.
yeah. Fastest finger.
Mr. Mark, can you see the winner?
I can see a lot of correct answers, but
The
I
first
can't
one, the first
see
one,
who was the first one. Uh,
really.
yeah, there's
So
so many answers coming in.
the first one is from Hong. She's Vietnamese, Hong Chen.
Mm.
Uh, so the answer is content, fluency, and pronunciation. These are 3 important criteria. So Hong, please comment whoever answered correctly and the fastest. Please also comment your email. Or if you too concerned, you don't have to comment, but you can also message us after the live stream session so that we can send you the voucher to access your Pearson mock test. So congratulations. All right. The second question is, let me just type it here for you guys because we don't have a lot of space. I'm just going to shorten speaking, writing, reading, and listening. So which part of the test is the longest in PTE? Speaking, writing, reading, or listening? Which part of the test is the longest? Speaking, writing, reading, or listening? So not task, but what you can only pick one. Yeah, it has to be only one part. So we have 2 hours exam, and each of the part, like speaking, writing, reading, and listening, will have a certain time slot. Yeah, time given, and yeah, we have so many so many comments here from both YouTube and Facebook, and mixed answers too, right? And the correct answer here is, should I announce the answer now? The correct answer is the last part of your exam, which is listening.
Listening.
Yeah. So for this task, is it will be at least like 30 to 40 minutes, including summarized spoken text. So that's the longest part of your exam, which means you have to try your best to save your energy and also brain cells.
Yeah.
Like don't work too hard on speaking or writing because you also have reading and listening. You might get really exhausted. And the winner is, let's see who is the winner. We have one really okay. So from Facebook again, Ashish Ashish Badoni. Ashish Badoni. Congratulations, he just replied L because I'm like, okay, I have to be fast. He just
Yep.
like type. He just typed literally just one letter. Everyone else like trying to type like speaking, writing, listening, but it's like, oh, okay, I gotta be the fastest. So congratulations, Ashish. Please contact us after the live stream session so that we can send you the voucher code. Right. Okay, guys. Don't worry if you haven't got the correct answer. We still have three more questions, and they are very easy. So it means that the chance of you getting it correctly is very high, but you need to be fast. Okay, and make sure that you have a good internet connection. Maybe connect to 4G or something. Okay, the next question is we already talked about this during the session today. Um, is the is the overall score in PTE always calculated based on the average of four skills? So is your overall score always calculated based on the average of four skills? So you take four skills and you divide it by four, and you get your overall score. Is it always like that? Please comment your answers. It's actually yes or no, right? So you just type yes or no. Who is the fastest?
Yeah, I think so far everyone got it right. It's just
Just the speed.
who is the fastest one? I,
And I feel sad because like I don't know if it's the connection on Facebook or YouTube, but so far the first three winners are from Facebook, even though we have so many comments on YouTube.
YouTube.
A lot of comments on YouTube too, but okay, so I'm just going to announce the winner here. We have one winner. The answer is no. Yeah. Did my screen just froze? Okay, sorry. So the answer is no, because the overall score will be calculated based on all of the tasks, not just four skills: speaking, listening, writing, and reading. And the winner is Aldrin Khan. Aldrin Khan. Congratulations. Please
Congratulations.
message us after the session today to get your voucher code. Okay, so we have two more. Two more. Um, this is also very easy, so please be fast. Guys, put your hand on your keyboard, okay? Um, the question here is, does you does UK and US spelling matter in writing? Does it matter? Is it important? Do you have to pay attention to UK and US spelling? So we talk about this, guys. So this time I have a very fast answer on YouTube, but they didn't answer it correctly, unfortunately. So me and Mr. Mark covered this, and we say that, for instance, when you do a certain task like essay, and you get two essays, if you pick UK spelling in the first essay, you have to use UK spelling in the whole first essay. If you pick US spelling for the second essay, you have to use only US spelling in the second essay. So you can't mix spelling in one question. That can affect your scores. So the answer is it actually matters. It does matter in writing. Uh, so who answered correctly? Let me check. It's a bit hard because most of the students answered no.
Yeah, I think yeah because it's tricky. No, in the sense that if you're more comfortable with UK spelling, you don't need to switch. But yes, in the sense that as Moni mentioned, uh, if you start with one form, you need to stay with that.
You have to stay. You have to stick with one. That's also the reason why some of you have lower speaking scores, is writing score. Maybe because you mix the spelling in the whole, like in particular task. So the winner is Ankita Mishra, and it's also one of the viewer on Facebook. Congratulations.
Still Facebook.
Congratulations. Still Facebook. We as I said, we do have some people answering very fast on YouTube, but they didn't get the right answer. So sorry guys. We have one last one, super easy, very, very easy. Please, I beg you, YouTube viewers, please win. Please win the last um, the last voucher code. Yeah, this mock test is worth 55 AUD. So instead of you buying the mock test with your own money, you can actually win this mock test. Okay, let's try this. The last question is, does accent impact your speaking score? Should you care about your accent?
Yep. All correct answers here.
Yeah, all correct. I don't even see YouTube. YouTube. Oh, okay, I can see some YouTube, but again, a bit late. Mr. Mark, can you see the winner?
Let's see. Is it? Not sure I'm pronouncing this properly. Is it Hyun?
Yeah, it's Huỳnh Anh Tuấn. He's Vietnamese student. Okay, I'm just gonna post his
Okay.
name here so everyone can see the winner, Huỳnh Anh Tuấn, on Facebook again, Facebook viewer. So yeah, congratulations, of course, and sorry to the YouTube viewers. Don't worry, we might hold another webinar in the future, and you can have a chance to win some of the Pearson mock tests. I think from time to time, Mr. Mark will sponsor some of the Pearson mock tests to us, and
Glad.
you guys can get a chance to try them. But yeah, I think that will be the end of our live stream session today. I just want to say thank you to Mr. Mark Flores for taking time to join us today and to present some of the important information and answer everyone's questions, particularly some questions who requested you to speak to Pearson team to fix some issues like mock test not showing the skills profile or the microphone issues in Nepal. So we really appreciate your your help. Um, and if other students have questions which you didn't think of during the live stream, but still want to ask, you can also email us or message us directly, and we will try to answer your questions. But yeah, thank
All right.
you.
Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Moni, for having me over. It was a pleasure. And looking forward to doing this again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you everyone for joining and good luck with your exam. And we hope that we can continue provide more valuable webinars and information to all. Thank you. Bye bye. Bye
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye. Have a good day.